Alrighty, folks, RFK Jr. has some traction in the Democratic polling. Well, he had an unfortunate dinner in New York last night. It involved some farting. This is one of the great political headlines I've ever read. It is from the New York Post. Quote, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. press dinner explodes in... I can't finish this. It's from page 6. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. press dinner explodes in war of words and farting. So, if that did not pique your interest, I'm not sure what will. Camelot, it ain't. Page 6 regrets to report that a press dinner to boost RFK's presidential campaign descended into a foul bout of screaming and polemic farting on Tuesday night. The White House hopeful attended the affair at Tony's on the Upper East Side, no doubt hoping to impress on the ladies and gentlemen of the Fourth Estate his worthiness to sit at the very same Oval Office desk once occupied by his late uncle. But a shouting match over climate change broke out between two boisterous old men, sending the evening down an extremely unfortunate path. The gaseous exchange, to which page 6 bore reluctant witness, began after a guest asked Kennedy, founder of the ecological organization Waterkeeper Alliance, about the environment. It seems that the mere inquiry was enough to set off the apparently drunk gossip columnist turned flack Doug Dechert, the host of the event, who became enraged and screamed at the top of his lungs, the climate hoax. Meanwhile, octogenarian art critic Anthony Hayden Guest, who appeared to have been sleeping happily for most of the dinner, was roused by the abrupt rumpus. Hayden Guest suddenly opened his eyes and denounced his longtime pal Dechert, calling him a miserable blob. Shut up, Hayden Guest replied. Dechert continued to scream wildly about the climate change scam, while Hayden Guest peppered him with verbal volleys from across the table, calling him variously effing insane and insignificant. Meanwhile, RFK watched calmly. Here it seems Dechert sensed the need for a new rhetorical tack and let rip a loud, prolonged fart while yelling, as if to underscore his point. I'm farting. Apparently, he addresses these issues in the same way that Kamala Harris does. He was farting. When he farted, it meant he was farting. The room, which included a handful of journalists as well as Kennedy's campaign manager, former Representative Dennis Kucinich, was stunned, seemingly unsure about whether Dechert was farting at Hayden Guest personally or at the very notion of global warming. Regrettably, we may assure readers there was no room left for doubt that the climate changed in the immediate environs of the dinner table. The candidate maintained a steady composure in the face of the crisis. Sadly, and somewhat inexplicably, another guest brought things back to climate change at a certain point, leading to another round of yelling. When asked about his outburst the next day, Dechert said, I apologize for using my flatulence as a medium of public commentary in your presence. He also asked us to refer to him as either a gallivanting boulevardier or a beer-fueled sex rocket. Only the best. This means RFK Jr. is going to be president, doesn't it? I mean, these are the way that this is basically how our culture now works. I'm pretty sure that our culture now works like whoever has a dinner event covered by page 6 in which people are averring their opinions through farting, that person automatically wins the presidency. I'm pretty sure that according to the Constitution, that's how all of this works. Very exciting stuff happening in the RFK campaign. We have a dog. His name is Happy. And he's a really, really good dog. He's a great dog. This dog, I mean, he's so nice to the kids. He's getting used to the baby now. It's really, really cute. Well, we want Happy to live a long and healthy life. This is why we give him Rough Greens every single morning. The dog food you've been giving your dog, well, that is dead food. It doesn't have that much nutritional value. Brown food doesn't exactly scream nutrition, but green food does. Rough Greens boosts Happy's food back to life. It can do the same for your dog. You don't have to go out and buy new dog food. Just sprinkle Rough Greens on their food every day. It contains all the necessary vitamins and minerals your dog is not getting from their regular dog food. Again, Happy loves his Rough Greens. Basically demands it by name. Get it? Rough. In any case, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the founder of Rough Greens, is so confident that this product will improve your dog's health. He's offering my listeners a free Jumpstart trial bag today. Go to freeroughgreens.com/Ben. Let Rough Greens bring your dog's food back to life. That's free, ruffgreens.com/Ben today, or call 833-MY-DOG-33. That is 833-MY-DOG-33. Go check it out today. 833-MY-DOG-33 or free, ruffgreens.com/Ben. You know a company is looking out for you when they actually upgrade their service, and you don't actually get charged for that. This is great news for new and current Pure Talk customers. Pure Talk just added data to every plan and includes a mobile hotspot with no price increase whatsoever. If you've considered Pure Talk before, but you haven't made the switch, take a look again. For just $20 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, and now 50% more 5G data plus their new mobile hotspot. This is why I love Pure Talk. They are veteran-owned, and they only hire the best customer service team located right here in the great United States of America. Most families are saving almost $1,000 a year while enjoying the most dependable 5G network in America. Remember, you vote with how you spend your money, so stop supporting companies that actually hate your guts. puretalk.com/Shapiro is the way to go. I've been getting all my business coverage from them. You should do the same. You'll save an additional 50% off your very first month because they actually value you. That's puretalk.com/Shapiro. Pure Talk is wireless for Americans by Americans. I know their coverage is great because, again, I use it, their coverage, and you should do the same. Go check them out right now. puretalk.com/Shapiro. Save an additional 50% off your very first month of coverage. That's puretalk.com/Shapiro. We have a country of 340 million people, and the people that we came up with to run for president are an octogenarian dotard who is currently occupying the Oval Office, Donald J. Trump, and RFK Jr. These are the people we came up with. I have to say, we're not sending our best, just as a general rule. Okay, meanwhile, we now have some good statistics from the 2022 election, and they bode somewhat well for Republicans and somewhat ill for Republicans. So these statistics are from Pew Research. And what they find is that Republican turnout was way up in 2022 compared to 2020, as opposed to Biden voters. So apparently, 71% of Trump voters voted in 2022 for Republican House candidates. Only 67% of Biden voters voted in 2022. Very few people defected. So it really was a turnout election. About 7% of Biden voters in 2020 voted Republican in 2022. Only 3% of Republican voters in 2020 voted Democrat in 2022. So again, that's not a huge kind of swath of independents in the middle of the country. According to that new Pew Research Center analysis of verified voters and non-voters in 2022, 2020, 2018, and 2016, they found partisan differences in turnout account for most of the Republican gains in voting for the House last year. Overall, 68% of those who voted in 2020 turned out to vote in the 2022 midterms. As in previous election, party loyalty remained strong in last fall's midterms. Democratic 2018 voters were slightly more likely than Republican 2018 voters to defect in 2022. That flipped party balance 1 or 2 percentage points to the GOP. So why exactly did Republicans then underperform in the Senate races? The answer is because all the Senate races were fairly close, but a bunch of people split their ticket. A bunch of people who voted Republican for House candidates did not vote for the Republican candidate in the Senate. So that's the part that bodes ill. But Republican turnout is going to continue to be high because, again, Republicans are pissed off with the state of the country. They're angry at Joe Biden. They're angry at the current Democratic rule, not only inside government, but also within the media, within corporate halls. And so they're going to continue to show up and vote. But candidate quality does, in fact, matter. Candidate quality is going to matter. Now, again, one part of this 2024 election cycle that's definitely not going to benefit Democrats the same way it did as in 2020 is that people are going to show up more in person to vote than they did in 2020. A huge number of people voted by mail-in because of all of the Democratic attempts to get people to vote early, thanks to scare tacticking about COVID. Voting in person on Election Day in 2022 increased sharply compared with 2020. More voters reported casting ballots in person on Election Day in both parties. The share remained much higher among Republican voters, 51%, than among Democratic voters, 34%. White voters without college degrees made up a majority, 54% of Republican voters in 2022, compared with just 27% of Democratic voters. Hispanic voters did, in fact, move over toward the Republican Party. Hispanic voters favored Democrats by a 21-point margin in 2022, but that was a 47-point margin in 2018. Black voters continued to support Democrats by overwhelming margins. 93% voted for Democrats in the midterms, only 5% for Republicans. So, what exactly does that mean for Republicans? Well, again, it means that they're going to have to count on lower voter turnout for Democrats in order to win the 2024 election if Donald Trump is the candidate, because they're not going to be winning a ton of independents. The 2022 election is a sort of good forecast, you would presume, for what's going to happen in 2024. Because again, 2020 is even more of an outlier than a typical midterm election. Whenever you're trying to forecast what's going to happen in the next, you tend to look at the last presidential. I don't think 2020 is a good predicate election for 2024. I actually don't. Because of the wildly increased voter turnout, because of the changes in the voting rules, because of the increase in mail-in ballots and all of the rest. And because of all the chaos of 2020. I'm not sure that replicates itself in 2024, which is why you're seeing Democrats becoming increasingly nervous. With that said, does Donald Trump actually have a plan to win in 2024? So he did an interview recently with the Nevada Globe. And he was asked specifically about what he would do about all of the problems that they had in 2024, in 2020 rather, and how exactly he meant to collect himself and win in 2024. My question, what is he going to change between 2020 and 2024 to prevent the election from being stolen if you believe the election was stolen, President Trump? Here was his answer. Quote, so here's the question, quote, how do you win in 2024 if the system is, in your word, rigged? Trump said, you have to swamp them. They're cheaters. They cheat. They lie. They're horrible. I wouldn't have said this 2 years ago. Well, I mean, you would and you did. He said, who would have ever thought such a thing like this was possible? They're cheaters. You have to hope the courts get tougher because they see a lot of it. They don't want to get involved because they're afraid or something. Bill Barr was a stiff. He was afraid of being impeached. He was petrified of being impeached. He was just a stiff. And now you see with this stuff coming up, it should happen now. I mean, Garland should do something about what's taking place. I'm actually surprised more than anybody at Garland because he sees this massive corruption. I'm surprised he allows it to go on. I really am. I had a lot of respect for him. He was a liberal man, and that's fine. I'm surprised he allowed it to go on. It's somewhat hard to have a scandal if they're not going to write about it. The public sees it. It's a good thing. By having truth, I have a defense. Okay, you may have noticed that the question was, how do you plan to overcome the systemic obstacles to your victory in 2024? And he did not have a single sentence dedicated to that answer. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show continues right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be joined on the line by Representative Jim Jordan. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.